Everyone is a little patch of property that can be treated differently, but absolutely the clear-cut model is
sorry, I'm so this morning.
not the only option for forest management, and more we're getting away from that. Under our budget allocation of $5 million, it was hopefully will be passed in the budget this year. Will allow for different models other than what's been known in the past as clear cutting, and that will include selection management, a lot more Category 7 type of silvicultural work, and will open up the forest a bit more to allow good, healthy young trees to continue to grow, and it may lead to a shelterwood harvest down the road. But it's really partial harvesting is the opposite of any type of clear cutting, and it allows for better forest management and better sustainability, and allows for a gradual harvest of land over time rather than taking it all at once. But I know the department is going to continue to work with stakeholders, and as our strategy is unveiled, and then as we move forward in an implementation stage, again, we're going to be consulting with all interest in the forest properties, and we'll continue to work towards what clear cutting actually means, and like I said, because it means different things to different people, and but we want to engage Nova Scotians and look at the best model of forestry practices that we possibly can.
Member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little confused, but that's not an unusual situation. However, if part of the strategy is to reduce clear cutting by 50%, and you have 9 different definitions of what clear cutting is, how can you implement that strategy without having a defined meaning as to what clear cutting is? Because if there are 9 different definitions and you are going to apply them differently across the province, how in the world is that fair to the people who are the wood producers in this province?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to continue to dialogue with Nova Scotians, continue to dialogue with the interest in the forest industry, and whether that's the Ecology Action Centre, other environmental interest, with woodlot owners, with industry folks, and to determine what clear cut actually means. And our staff in the department is working on this and is consulting with a variety of folks, and as we move forward, we'll determine exactly what that definition is, and it may mean different things or different on different types of property, and a clear-cut model might be one thing on a mature white stand, but it could have a different meaning perhaps on a mixed woodland, or or hardwood or softwood, or the microclimate. It has different meanings to different people, but the main thing is we're going to consult and continue to work with Nova Scotians and all stakeholders to come up with the proper definition or definitions to determine what's right for any particular piece of property.
Member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure. I am sure that the minister is sincere in what he's saying. I am not sure is how you can set a goal of reducing something by 50% when you don't know what that is. Now, that would be sort of like what we'd say at home, putting the horse before the cart before the horse, and it just doesn't work all that right. So the question is, again, if you're working with the stakeholders and you're trying to find out what the definition is, why would you set a goal that you're going to reduce something by 50% and you don't know what that definition of that very item is? It doesn't make any sense. And from the different groups that we've heard from, it doesn't make any sense to them. So the question is, how can you set a goal and then after that define what the parameters of that goal are going to be?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it's important to get this right, and absolutely, and again, it's important that we don't be seen as coming from on high as saying that we have all the answers, and we want to make sure that we do consult with everyone in the province, whether they own their own woodlot or whether they have an interest in recreation, or they have want to see better protection for wildlife, or riparian zone protection, forest management for now and well into the future. There are different interests in the forestry. There's different values that Nova Scotians have, and we need to work with all the various stakeholders and all the various interests in the province, and also to decide on the the type of forest cover that we have, and whether it's hardwood or softwood or steep slope or a lowland, or there's different biosites out there that are important, and it could mean different things to different types of forest cover. But again, we want to take the input from all Nova Scotians, and within our department use our expertise to come up with a proper definition, and more important, the proper forestry practice on that particular site or that particular piece of land.
Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minister has said that the department does not want to look like they're bringing it on from on high. They want to hear from the different stakeholders. Yet they've already brought it from on high, because they've already said clear cutting is going to be cut by 50%. So if you've already decided you're going to cut clear cutting by 50%, somebody somewhere has made a determination of what clear cutting is. If they haven't, then why in the world would you declare that you're going to cut it by 50%? And if you wanted the input of the industry, why would you make that declaration prior to having a pure understanding of what the industry is saying is their definition and their agreement with your department as to what clear cutting is? So for you to say that there is no definition, that you don't want to look like you're coming from on high, I think you've already missed the boat. I think that you've already come from on high by simply stating that you're going to cut it by 50%. That would be like saying that you're going to cut my grocery order by 50% because I'm fat. Well, I won't argue that I'm fat, but I would argue with you back and forth that there are some challenges with that, because you do not know the reasons why things are the way they are. So you're just making a declaration based on some information that you perceive to have. So I again wonder, and can't understand, and nor can the industry understand, what the definition of clear cutting is, and why is it that you said we're going to cut clear cutting by 50% without having agreement or understanding of what it is you're cutting.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going anywhere close to the grocery order or anything else. So, when we had phase one of the consultations under the voluntary planning, there were, Nova Scotians told us the values that they truly respect. There were a number of those that they said, the bottom line being that, the status quo was just not the option. And we've had, in the high 90s in the numbers of, value of clear cutting. And, but I suppose if you had to give, a definition, clear cutting is anything that's not a partial harvest. I guess that would be the one that I would use, but but in many ways it's still a work in progress, and we need to work with all the stakeholders to come up with what they feel is the best way to do it. But again, I think it could mean different things on different types of land, because not all property is the same. There's so many variables, as I outlined earlier. But, you know, Nova Scotians want us, in the values that they first expressed, they want us to be collaborative, they want us to be transparent, to have informed decision-making, and they feel that, you know, they want to be engaged, they want to be part of that process, and that's why we're continuing to engage them in the process. And so, again, if you want a definition, it's anything but a partial harvest.
Member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So your definition, or I guess what we need to clarify here, is this the department's definition or is this the minister's definition? Because I don't want to be putting words in anybody's mouth, so I need to know, is this the department's definition of what clear cutting is, or is it the minister's definition of what clear cutting is?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
You're a gentleman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my opinion is what I expressed here just now, but it is supported by the National Forestry Database, and so I guess I'm in good company in that regard.
Member for Cape Breton West.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So then the definition in the province of Nova Scotia for clear cutting is anything that's not a partial harvest. The minister's indicating that that's his definition, but he just said that that's the definition that's used nationally. So again, I want to be sure that I'm not trying to put words in his mouth or his department's mouth. So I need to have clarification. Is this his definition or is it the department's definition?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I gave you my personal opinion, and it's still a work in progress in the department. And again, we're going to continue to engage Nova Scotians and work towards better forest management.
The member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the minister for that clarification, but unfortunately that clarification also raises some concerns, because if that's where the minister's head is already, without having heard what the woodlot owners and the different landowners around the province who have wood products they're hearing that this is what his definition is, and they're having a job getting their definition being heard, I think that may create a problem, because I heard the minister say earlier that over 90% of the people have said that clear cutting was a priority, and I don't doubt his figures. My question would be, of course, how many of the people that were surveyed are actually woodlot owners who look to their own woodlots for this as a form of economy, money to drive their own personal lives. So it's one thing to say that 90% of the people are against clear cutting, but I'm wondering what the people that actually own the land, that pay the taxes on the land, who make their living off the land, what is their thoughts on this situation of clear cutting?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, we're continuing to consult with woodlot owners, as we are continuing to consult with people that have an interest in the environment, and organizations that are involved in the forest industry, large companies, small companies. And as we move forward, we'll continue to dialogue with them and continue to get their ideas, and make sure that in the end we have the very best forest policy that's right for Nova Scotia, is right for a healthy forest, and is right for a healthy forest industry.
Member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I do want to thank the minister for his answers, because I do believe that he's sincere, and I've said that before. I would like to say, though, I think it's very important that before we move too much farther ahead, that we have a clear definition on what clear cutting is, because if we're going to implement a strategy and people still don't know what clear cutting is, I think that that's going to be harmful to the people that own woodlots, that it's going to be harmful to the people that are making part of their income and their livelihood off of these woodlots. And if it does mean that it's different things for different areas. I think that has to be defined as well. If there's different segments of the population that are going to be treated differently, the Woodlot Owners Association and others, the small woodlot owners, all of those different groups that are out there need to know what it is. Because I've been told time and time again in meetings that we've had with these individuals is they understand we have to do things different, but they need to know what the ground rules are so that they're able to move forward and give their opinions as to where things need to be so this industry can be successful. And it has been such a major part of our economy since forever that we need to be sure that what we're doing is right, so that if we're going to be making goals, we should have a clear understanding of how we got to those goals. We're going to move on now, Mr. Chair. I think the Minister is probably relieved to hear that. But we're going to move on a little bit. I would just want to, again, get some clarification with the biomass. And recently the Minister has announced that the original target of 500,000 has been reduced to 350,000. And I wonder if the Minister could just give a little background as to how that decision came about.
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, part of good forest management is looking at all the uses of our forest, you know, whether that's for wildlife or for recreation, carbon storage or water protection, or forest products that support our industries around the province. And there's probably other uses I haven't touched on, but there's a great variety of uses that our woodlands offer to us. And, you know, the honourable member may be one that likes to just take a walk in the woods and enjoy the quiet and peace of the environment. And I know personally I'm one of those. So, but that's a recreational pursuit. But if you're looking on the fiber side, on the industry side of the woodlands, and you know, we're trying to get away from some of the practices in the past and moving towards more sustainability. And over in the strategy process, Nova Scotians told us that the status quo was not an option, and that's why we're moving forward on those values, as well as in the mineral and parks and biodiversity areas that will be entrenched in the strategy. But if we are moving to a new model and you know, far less clear cutting and then working towards more sustainable forests that will include you know, more selection harvesting and more you know, Category 7 management, you know, and a diversity of our Acadian species, both hardwood and softwood. And some stands are pure softwood, some are pure hardwood, and many of our Acadian forests are a mix of those two. So the highest and best use is really the ultimate goal of our, you know, of our woodlands. And you know, and in proper forest management, there's always trees left on the land if the biosite indicates that. So when a woodlot owner goes in or contractor on his behalf to manage some aspects of the woodlot, there may be trees that are mature, you know, that they're ready to harvest. It may be hardwood, maybe softwood. Those are the trees that are taken out. But rather than take all the trees on the lot that are big or small, you leave good, young, healthy trees to grow. And those are the future crop. And you may come back in 5 years or 10 years, perhaps to do some further treatments on your woodlot that will allow for you know, another crop, but then also to always managing for a better forest over time. But as you go along, of course, you may take logs out of the mature wood. You may take studwood. It may be pulpwood if it's of a lesser grade, and there may be some biomass that's the least desirable, but still is a marketable product. And you know, there may be stems that are crooked, maybe stems that are diseased or decayed. Those are the least valuable, but still they have a value, and those are the ones that will end up as biomass. But so the highest and best use allows the logs, studwood, and pulpwood, and perhaps firewood to go out ahead of that, and the ones of the least value are towards biomass. But again, it's a marketable product, and while the woodlot owner or the contractor is in there, they can take that product out. And it also allows the forest to be able to be improved, because you're given some space, some light, some area between the trees, and they're not as crowded. So it allows for healthier, faster growth for a good, healthy young spruce, red spruce, or perhaps a sugar maple or a yellow birch to be able to continue to grow, perhaps for another 10 years, maybe for another 100 years before it's mature. So biomass really is a byproduct of good forest management. And if you're doing good selection harvesting, you're taking mature wood out, but you're also taking out less valuable species, and you're taking out the rate down to maybe an undesirable species like a pin cherry or a gray birch that could go for biomass, or other, like I mentioned, diseased or crooked stems. So the bottom line is biomass it really, as I mentioned, is a byproduct of good forest harvesting. And I think the member had asked about the reduction from 500,000 dry tons down to 350,000 dry tons. And we're being cautious, we're being conservative. We don't want to over-harvest our forest, and part of our strategy moving forward will be to look at an annual allowable cut in the province that makes sure that we're well within that. But based on the modeling that our department has done using the old SAWS formula, as it's referred to, I think today we're looking at another model called Woodstock. But we have expertise within the department that is knowledgeable, that is constantly upgrading their skills, and attend conferences to get the latest information, and help us determine a model that that is on the safe side, that is on the conservative, cautious side. And originally that model had been set at 1.5 million tons of I guess of green wood, or that's 750,000 tons of dry wood. And they said, well, let's err on the side of caution. Let's cut that down again from 750,000 down to 500,000 dry tons. And so that was the goal that was set. And then more recently, our department has looked again at the latest modeling techniques, and also in conjunction with the economic impact analysis, we a contractor for that, because we want to know what the impact of cutting down on towards 50% goal of clear cutting in the province might have on our forest industry. And Peter Woodbridge was the successful applicant in that regard. And his report it came to us earlier this month and indicated that we should be ultra conservative and look at our modeling again, and which we've done. And based on his advice and on our own modeling within the department, came up with a lower goal of 350,000 dry tons. So that's really being on the very, very cautious approach, I guess the cautionary principle. And we think it's based on our modeling, based on his best advice, that is doable. And so as we move forward, that's the maximum total that will be allowed for biomass in the province. And that reduction, the 150,000 dry tons, was taken from Nova Scotia Power for their cogeneration. And that was probably the least efficient of the electricity production, we felt. And that allow the balance that's left is for New Page in their project that's already been approved, somewhere in the range of 160,000 dry tons. And that leaves a balance of approximately 190,000 dry tons. And that is going to be spread around, but we're certainly encouraging small local community projects. Perhaps there will be one in your community that could fit the COMFIT guidelines. And the UARB is going to be ruling on that next month on the rate that producers will receive for electric generation from biomass. So I guess to sum it up, Mr. Chair, it's we're being cautious. We're on a lower than we had anticipated. We're encouraging small community economic development with the COMFIT program. There's only one project that's been approved, and it will not come on stream until 2013. That's the New Page project in Port Hawkesbury. And proper sustainable forest management is important, and we're going to have strict regulations on how those harvesting practices can be undertaken. And really, biomass, as I mentioned, is a byproduct of good forest management. So I hope that's been able to answer your question a little bit, Honourable Member, and I'll certainly answer further if you so wish.
The member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate what the minister had to say, and I thank him for his answer. So I am to understand that the biomass that's been cut out is biomass that may have been used by Nova Scotia Power to help co-generate electricity in the province of Nova Scotia. And I know once or twice there's been $8 million+ announced for co-generation in Pictou County in Trenton for Nova Scotia Power to do biomass burning so they could displace coal. Just yesterday we've heard that Nova Scotia Power is looking at raising power rates right across the province because of costs of fuels. I'm just wondering if that information was available to the minister when the decision was made to take this biomass out of the potential system of a fuel source for Nova Scotia Power.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. As I mentioned, the cautious goal to reduce the biomass cap from 500,000 dry tons to 350,000 dry tons, that's a 30% reduction. That was taken, again, make sure we're well within our allowable cut and well within our forest potential to produce that biomass product. And so the decision was made, the 150,000 dry tons would be taken out of the total. That will all come from Nova Scotia Power's allocation, so we will not be allowing any cogeneration by Nova Scotia Power, whether it's in Trenton or Lingan or wherever. And cogeneration is when you use more than one product to produce the power, whether it's coal mixed with biomass or whether it's oil, or it's a mix of different fuel products. And so, as I said, we're on the side of caution. We're going to not allow any of that by Nova Scotia Power and at any of their plants around the province.
Member for Cape Breton West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the Minister for his answers and his staff for being here today. I'm going to now share the rest of my time with the member for Argyll.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Argyll.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to ask a couple of questions, very simple questions in regards to more Southwest budgeting and a little bit maybe about leases in the area. If you remember a few years ago when the Tobiatic wilderness area was lined up and the plan was actually adopted, it meant the loss of a number of leases within the Tobiatic wilderness area. So I'm just wondering, has there been an increase of lease requests outside of the Tobiatic in the I guess you would say the Yarmouth County area? Because one of the concerns that people had that once we were shutting down a lot of those leases and getting rid of the cottages, that those people that do that outback camping and hunting would try to look for new leases in that area. So the first question I would ask is, has there been an increase in leases in the Yarmouth County area from Department of Natural Resources?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I welcome the Honourable Member from Argyll to our discussion here this afternoon. The Tobiatic area is certainly a very important environmental region of our province, and you know, it's been a bit controversial, I guess, there about leases and camp leases, and certainly anybody that has a camp, they know how valuable and great it is to get away, perhaps for a weekend, and just enjoy the scenery, or perhaps if they're a fisherman or a hunter, to take advantage of those recreational activities. And I know there's been, you know, a process of, you know, of leases within areas like that. If they had a definite contract, then they were, you know, under, okay, you know, they were honored. But others that were perhaps there less than 20 years lost some of their leases, and they, you know, they had to move on. And I think there was some compensation given to people that lost their camps, and you know, it wasn't always easy, but sometimes money helps to ease some of that loss. Whether there was more taken up around the Tobiatic because of their loss there, I'm not actually sure, Honourable Member, but I can certainly engage with my staff to try to get that information for you.
Honourable Member for Argyle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Minister. And one of the concerns was, if I remember the whole debate, I mean, it was a huge loss to those leaseholders because a lot of them had been there for you know, 50 years in some cases, 100 years in others. And there's only a very handful of cottages or camps, hunting camps, left in the Tobiatic today. And by a handful, I mean there's probably 3 or 4 at this point. But the biggest concern was, since there was so many, because there was like 20 or 30 within the boundaries of that wilderness area, that as they would sort of shut down out of that because they're being pushed out, where would they end up? Because these individuals are hunters, they're fishermen, they do enjoy living off the land in that area. So the concern was they would always end up in concentrating in other areas where there would probably be too many leases, too many cottages. So if you can get me that information, if there's been an increase or decrease of lease requests or leases in the Southwest area, I would appreciate that. I'm just wondering, how much does it cost for a lease today? That's been sort of the second part, and I'll talk about, you know, maybe some of that's the increase. The original increase happened under our watch, but what does it cost today to lease, have a lease anywhere on Crown land in Nova Scotia?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I, right off the top of my head, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think at one time it was, I can recall hearing a figure around $100 a year, but that's probably out of date now, and things have changed. Again, I'll undertake to get that information for you, but I don't know right at the moment.
The Honourable Member for Argyle.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think it's sort of the $700 range now, if not like, and there's sort of a renewal fee that goes along with it every few years. So it's like a $300 renewal fee if I am not mistaken. So anyway, you'll endeavor to get that information for me, and I appreciate that. But just a comment to that is, I've been talking to some people that do find that a little expensive. And if there's anything they can do to either at least try to keep that level, or, you know, decrease it in some way over time, would be good. Because what used to happen a lot is that there was like 5 or 6 families, individuals that would sort of get together on a lease and would sort of share the cost. But what we're seeing a lot more now is that there's only 1 or 2 families left, so it costs a heck of a lot more for an individual to have a lease. So, you know, I'm hoping at some point maybe that could stabilize, because there had been a number of jumps in it. So if you can provide me with that information, would be appreciated. And the third point that I would make is we're coming close to our forest fire season. Actually, we've already had a couple little forest fires down in the Southwest. Just wondering, where do you expect that budget to go, the firefighting budget to go this year? Is there any indications right now on what the expectation is, or are we sort of still in the spring and we're not too sure?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have the answer here for you now on the lease cost. My deputies helped me get that. $523 is the annual cost to lease for a campsite in Nova Scotia, so $523. As far as firefighting, certainly so far this spring we've been very fortunate as compared to last year. Well, I guess maybe it depends on your point of view. It's been cold, it's been damp, it's been rainy, and even some snow, I think, in some parts of our province yesterday. But that has helped to keep down the fires in our province, and I understand that we've had far less fires and a whole lot less hectares that have been impacted this year by fires. In fact, we're only about a tenth, I believe, of what we had at this time to this date. And but you know, that could change tomorrow if the sun comes out and warms up and dries up. And but we do have a good firefighting service. We do have good men and women out there on the front lines as required, and even mutual aid from other provinces if something were large and got out of hand, and as we reciprocate with them as necessary. But our air fleet and staff are on the alert, on the ready, and as necessary they'll respond to any fire in the province. So, but fortunately this year so far it's been much less than this time last year.
The honourable member for Argyle.
Thank you so much. And no, you know, even if I go from my experience as a firefighter this year, the calls have been way down on grass fires, for instance. But what happens a lot of times is those grass fires end up turning into forest fires in a lot of cases. I didn't hear a lot of those this year, even though there was, I think Roberts Island had a bit of a forest fire, just got a little off the beaten path into the woods a little bit, but hasn't been bad. Seen the helicopter around a few times, so you know, I think, you know, it's not starting off so bad. So with that, and even though I would probably have a bunch of other questions and stuff, I know that there's a number of other people that have some questions for you, and I look forward to talking to you in your new role as Minister, of course, of Natural Resources. And of course, I thank Weldon for being here, and of course your Deputy Duff. And I know I always appreciate talking to them along the way as well. So I'm going to finish up with my time, and I know that the Liberals do have some time as well.
I recognize the member for Dartmouth East.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. Seems like we were just here the other day. There's I know my colleague from Kings West has asked quite a few questions already, and there's just a couple of issues I wanted to go over, and I believe he may have a few questions when I'm done, just before we sort of wrap things up, and then I expect you'll have some closing remarks as well. I wanted to start, and I'm sure that every staff person in your department has told you I'd be going here, is I have to ask about the Shubenacadie Canal Commission. And I hear the laughter from the gallery, which means that there's got to be natural resources staff up there that knew I was going to ask that question too. I want to start by asking about appointments, because there are currently four provincial vacancies to the Commission. They've been vacant for at least a year, perhaps longer. And I'm wondering, I know that there have been people that applied. I've spoken to people who have applied. I know there's a number of very capable people from across the province. And I'm just wondering where your department is at in terms of having those vacancies come to the Human Resources Committee and be filled.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I welcome the honourable member from Dartmouth East to our estimates here this afternoon. And it does seem like it wasn't very long ago we were up here in another department, but at any rate, the Shubenacadie Canal is a wonderful asset that we have here in our province, and running all the way from Metro right through to the Bay of Fundy, and certainly was designed to be a commercial route, but now very much is a recreational trail, and I know different people enjoy maybe not going all the way through, but certainly hike or canoe or just taking a portion of the canal. And I'm sure as you live here in the Dartmouth area, I'm sure you're familiar with or have taken advantage of this end of the trail at least. And but I did have the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Billard and some others from the Canal Commission here with my deputy about, I would say about a month back, and got an update from them on some of their initiatives and some of the things they would like to do with the Canal Commission. And I think vacancies on the board was one thing that we discussed. And I believe at the time there was one that was coming through, one they had recommended and was being moved forward to the, to the Human Resources Committee through the ABC process. And I know the province appoints some members to that commission. The municipalities that are impacted along the way in Colchester and Hants and HRM also have members. And I believe next month, in June, there will be another opportunity for people to put their names in there through the screening process. But I believe there's one vacancy for sure right now that's on the commission, and but we did encourage the folks we met with there from the Canal Commission to try to bring names forward, good community people that could add some value to the commission that had an interest in it. And we would continue to look for applications. I encourage you, honourable member, if you know somebody in your community that would be a valuable member, that put their name forward. And but somebody that has an interest and has the time to devote to the commission. So while there are some vacancies, we're certainly encouraging new applications to come forward.
The member for Dartmouth East.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. I hope there's only one vacancy at the moment. The last number I had was 4. And I'll be honest, I'm not lobbying for anybody in particular because I don't know any of the people that have applied other than to be told by the Commission that there are quite a few people that have put their names forward who they think at least some of them are capable. And the challenge comes, I recognize that there are municipalities that appoint people. They're fairly quick. The HRM and Colchester and that generally fill their positions in advance of the position expiring, so it never becomes empty. The challenge that the Commission, of course, has is not only sharing workload, but also reaching quorum for meetings. If too many positions remain vacant, and so many of them are provincial, then it makes it difficult for them to meet their legislative responsibilities that's handed by your department. So I'm wondering whether there is and I recognize that you may not have all the answers to this right now, and I appreciate that. But I'm wondering if there is a solution to this problem on a longer-term basis because this has happened under the previous government as well, where we go through these holes with quite large periods of time with vacancies on the Commission or waiting for things to get filled. And I'd like to see that addressed because, of course, it does basically put a halt to the work of the Commission. And I know that we would never let this happen, say, on a health board or something like that. So, and listen, I recognize the Canal Commission is not, appointing people to the Canal Commission is never going to be the same priority as making sure that the Capital District Health Authority has all their positions filled. But it is important to the communities along the canal. It's important to their work. And it's definitely, being able to solve this problem as Minister would be a great show of faith in the work that they're doing as volunteers. And I just wonder if you have any ideas how we can streamline that process or solve. There's obviously a problem somewhere in the process.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And twice a year, as you know, we do advertise for vacancies in our ABC process. And I understand a recent ad has brought forward some applications. So there are some current applications that are being reviewed. One previous one is, like I mentioned, is ready to go to the HR committee, so that'll soon be appearing there. And but encouraging Nova Scotians to get involved, to participate in their agencies, boards, and commissions is a good thing. And in reality, I guess it's all of our roles as members of the legislature to see perhaps who in our communities has certain talents or abilities and the time to devote to that. Often retired folks or early retirees have many abilities and can contribute to their society in a meaningful way. And so I guess it's my role and all of our role in our own communities to identify people that we feel might be able to give a valuable contribution back to our province. So Perhaps we need to do a little bit more work with our own MLAs, the 52 of us here in the House, to encourage them to try to bring names forward, that are suitable for the agency boards or commission. But everybody has talents, and I'm sure there's people out there that could adequately fill the role on the Shubenacadie Canal Commission.
The honourable member for Dartmouth East.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister. I don't disagree with anything you said there, and I just hope that we can solve that bottleneck issue. I know that the Commission is eager to get to submit names or to help in that process. I know I've encouraged people, and I know certainly under the previous government, at least, some of the names just sat there for so long without a response that they get a bit disillusioned, and knowing that the spaces are empty. So I just hope that, as I say, I don't expect that you'd have the answer right now. I want to raise that issue with you so that you know that it is of concern to the Commission, but also to the communities as a whole, especially when they can't do their work. One of the issues that we brought forward, I wrote you a letter. I know they've spoken to you, and I believe the Premier has forwarded a letter. Actually, I think my letter may have gone to the previous minister, but I think you responded. Was on the chapel lands, and there is just to refresh your memory on that, and I do thank you for responding, because I do vaguely remember getting an acknowledgement of my letter. Is that there is a piece of land which the municipality is, the Halifax Regional Municipality is looking at purchasing for the purposes of expanding Burnside Industrial Park. Yet there is a large, or a reasonably, well, there's a section of that land, a portion of that land which has been designated as archaeologically significant by the Nova Scotia Museum. That land is available at the moment for sale because it's in an estate sale at the moment. It's part of the closing down of the chapel estate, and I'm just wondering, I know that the letter back to me, if I recall it correctly, suggested your department was reviewing that property, and I realize money's tight, but I also recognize that this is an extremely important acquisition. Not only does it solve picking up some lake frontage, which is always good to have in public hands, but it also addresses, it acquires for the province a piece of land which has archaeologically significant remnants on it, as identified by the museum, and there may, at this time, be an opportunity to partner with the municipality on a purchase, because I know that they're sort of in the same position where they don't really want the they don't want to pay for the whole thing because they don't want the part down by the canal, and I think the province doesn't want to pay for the whole thing because they don't want the part up by the, so there might be an opportunity there and have it subdivided. I'm just wondering whether there's been any work on that project. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and no, I am somewhat familiar with that property you mentioned, the Chapel Estate, and I've had the opportunity to be updated by staff on where we're at with that, and it is a valuable piece of property, quite a large piece, I understand, and as you mentioned, could be of value to HRM for their industrial lands, but also the land near the canal route would be valuable to have for as an addition to the canal waterway. And as you mentioned, there's some archaeological interest there as well that would have to be preserved. But so I understand we're working with HRM. We're perhaps looking at a joint bid just to determine, once the value is determined, and see how best to move forward. But we're in discussions certainly with HRM, and it could be a win-win for all, for both the province and the municipality, and so stay tuned. It's being worked on.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth East.
Well, Chair and Minister, that is indeed good news to hear that that this might happen, and I look forward to hearing from you more on that. And I suspect that the Minister of Economic Development would be interested too, because I believe that piece is in his riding. I'm pretty sure that's the riding that one's in. I'm never quite sure exactly where those lines fall, but I would like, I know you've met with the Commission and you've talked to them about their business plan and so forth and their activities, and one of the, and let me start by saying I recognize the fiscal challenges of the province, so my preamble to what I'm about to ask is that I do understand there's a fiscal issue here. However, what we have here is a canal that is rapidly approaching actually the 200th anniversary of the start of its construction, which is obviously a significant milestone. It's recognized as a National Engineering Historic Site. We have the canal, I say we because I used to be on the commission for about 5 years and still feel like I'm down there almost every day. We have entered a situation where some of the canal remnants are in danger of collapsing. I think you're probably aware of them. Some of them are held up by wood beams and so forth, which creates a safety hazard. Also, I might add, creates a flooding hazard in certain parts of the canal. Obviously, some, not much of an issue, but there's a flooding hazard as things enter the water, and I think we all recognize that. And the challenge is that the municipality, as you're probably aware, has put a large sum of money into the Inclined Plane site in downtown Dartmouth. They've offered up money for other sections. They're actually putting in-kind money currently into the Canal Commission operations because they're concerned. The federal government, on a couple of occasions, has also offered money through various grant programs. But as you're well aware, and I know this is a challenge for the province, but they always ask, where's the federal or where's the province? And I attended a meeting with the departmental staff of the federal minister of heritage, and the first question that they asked me was, listen, we're prepared to put money into this, and maybe not huge amounts, but prepared to put money, but we need the province in as a partner. And I recognize that's a challenge, but I'm wondering whether and I realize there's no money in this year, but you've obviously looked at the Commission's business plan. You've looked at the fact that they are seeking to raise private money, so they're not expecting you to come in and fund the whole canal reconstruction or even shoring up of the existing sites. But I'm wondering what you believe your government will be able to do over the next couple of years to at least be seen to be a financial partner, even if only a small one, but a financial partner in this to allow the Commission to trigger federal, provincial, and private donations. It's almost just like that show of good faith with even a small check would be helpful.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, obviously, as I mentioned, the Commission is doing good work, working within the budget they have. They look after the day-to-day management of the facility and, oversee the whole canal. But I know their annual funding is always tight, as you recognize it is here with the province of Nova Scotia. And but I do recall sitting down with them. I do believe they had an overall vision, a larger plan that they want to move forward with. And I know they've had some success through HRM in some financing. And especially on the project that was here towards the Dartmouth end, they were able to get some major money there to, an asset improvement for HRM as well as for the Canal Commission. And but I do know they have a larger plan now to, and working with the federal government, working with the municipality, working with private sources, and hopefully also with the province. And we'd encourage them to bring that plan forward, to get it rolled out. It possibly, we provide some oversight and some help and maybe some financial assistance through the Department of Natural Resources. But I think we did indicate to them that when their plan was fully ready and ready to roll out, we have other branches within government that might be able to assist as well through the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, maybe through communities, culture and heritage, maybe health and wellness. There's other options, other possibilities, and but we did encourage them to move forward with their plan, and when it's fully ready to come back to the province, we would be interested in talking with them and perhaps directing them towards another department as necessary.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth East.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister. That is somewhat encouraging. Anyways, it's moving in the right direction, I think. Here's a question I asked last year, and maybe I unfairly asked this question to the previous minister because it was government was still new and looking at how things are rationalized. it's interesting to note that the Canal Commission wasn't always under the Department of Natural Resources. They were at one time, I believe when they started, they were actually under the Department of Tourism. And then they moved over, the Minister of Natural Resources at the time was Tim Olive, I believe. And it got moved to Natural Resources, I think because he had an interest in it, is probably why it happened as much as... Oh, there you go. The former minister thinks that maybe what happened is that he was the Minister of Tourism and took it with him when he went to DNR. So, which, that makes sense too, because you have an interest. But I've often wondered whether the Commission is actually under the right department. And I recognize, as the Minister himself said, Madam Chair, that they cover a lot of departments, but almost everything they do is infrastructure. So we're talking trail infrastructure. In fact, they probably managed the largest number of kilometers of trail infrastructure in the province. They are working with pedestrian bridges that cross the canal, repurposing old highway infrastructure for that sort of thing, flooding. They're working with East Hants on water supply, like drinking water supply and water protection, source protection. Would they be, and I'm just wondering whether you have any thoughts on whether they would be better suited under, and not say that the minister doesn't care about the commission, but would they be better suited under a department that focuses on infrastructure, such as transportation and infrastructure renewal, or do you think that they're equally as well suited under natural resources?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And, you know, we do care. We really do care about the Commission, and in many ways it does fit reasonably well under our department, the Department of Natural Resources. You know, it's a Shubenacadie Canal. It's well, it's long and narrow. It's still a park. You know, it's still considered to be a park. So I think it's probably where it should be. It doesn't mean we can't coordinate financial assistance through other government departments or heritage or culture. But in many ways, I think it's a good fit because of the park aspect of it. And when our natural resources strategy comes forward this spring, you know, one of the 4 pillars of the strategy is around parks. And, you know, I think you'll see in there some initiatives that we want to do everything we can to improve our parks and, you know, to move forward with some new initiatives in that regard. So, so I think it's a good fit, really, in the Department of Natural Resources, and there'll be some new and exciting things coming forward in the strategy around parks, and I think the Shubenacadie Canal should be part of that.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth East.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Minister. I think you may actually be the first Minister who's actually said on the record in 10 years that the government cares about the Shubenacadie Canal Commission. Not to say that other ministers haven't, but the first person to actually say it in the legislature. And I can't tell you how they're down at the Fairbank Centre where they're watching today on Ledge TV. They are probably bouncing off the walls, happy to have heard you say that. So I'd like to thank you on their behalf and I don't want to suggest that other ministers have not, but it's just they sometimes feel neglected and so forth. So I would like to thank you for that. The last thing I wanted to ask you about is actually unrelated to the Commission, and then I'm going to hand it over to the member for Kings West to just sort of wrap up things, is about forest royalties. And a couple of people as we heard a lot about biomass, and I know I've asked you about biomass before, and the member for Kings West has, so I'm not directly asking about biomass, but I'm wondering how the department determines royalties from forest products and how it measures the royalties that it receives or the rates it charges against other jurisdictions.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess the royalty issue is one that's under constant review. It's something that we look at on a yearly basis, but even year-round, it's being looked at. And you know, we have on Crown land. That's where our royalty structure is in place. And you know, we have different rates for hardwood as we do for softwood. Different rates for the type of product that's harvested. You know, if it's a top quality logs, naturally that's the stumpage on that is worth more than pulpwood, and but it's mainly on our Crown leases and Crown licenses that we determine the rates that are paid. And some of those leases are long-term, as you know, like with under the Act with the New Page, as it's called now, or Stora Enso in the past, and previous names before that. But a very long-term lease, and also there's a similar lease with what's presently known as Northern Pulp, and by previous names previously. And we also have Crown licenses, that are on had been on a 10-year license, and often now are shorter term than that. But market conditions generally determine what the royalty should be, or the stumpage rate that's paid, and that can fluctuate up and down. And as you know, the forestry business it's been tough enough to make a living for sawmills and pulp mills and anyone involved in the industry over the last 2 or 3 years. We've had a downturn in the industry, so it's relative to the market conditions and the overall health of the industry at the time, but under constant review. And I can probably get you some details if you wish after on the exact amount that's paid for pulpwood or studwood or whatever on both hardwood and softwood. But that's a general overview of what's happening.
The honourable member for Dartmouth East.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Minister. And when he has time to provide that information, that would be great. There's no rush, but I would be interested in looking at it. And with that, I'll turn my time over to the member for Kings West.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to follow up on the 12% goal of protected lands in the province. And I know this is a legal protection process, and we know that one organization, Nature Trust, is working very diligently, limited resources and so on, but every now and then comes forward with a new announcement. Is that considered part of the 12%, or is the 12% simply the provincial initiative with legal protection and all that entails?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
I'm just trying to figure out your question, honourable member. Maybe you give it to me again. I could go on and on about the 12%, but I just want to make sure I'm answering your question.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Wondering if the lands, I know they're generally small parcels through Nature Trusts that are protected. I'm wondering if they are included in the 12% target and goal by 2015, or is the 12% simply the provincial initiative with all the legal ramifications that it involves?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We work with Nova Scotia Nature Trust and the Canadian Conservancy, I think is the name. I may not have the exact name on it there, but yeah, that land is part of our 12%. It's included, and private individuals that have a piece of land that may wish to donate it sometimes do it through the Nova Scotia Nature Trust or the Canadian equivalent, and so that's very generous of some Nova Scotians, or other times Canadians, or from other countries, but they own land in the province and want to see it maintained and preserved for future generations in a natural state, and that's a part of the 12% goal that we're working towards. And the government is also buying land. Sometimes people donate it, as I mentioned. Sometimes they want to sell it, and if it's the right piece and the unique special property, then we'll certainly entertain, under our community lands trust. We're buying property, and as you know, the province of Nova Scotia invested something like $80 million last year in purchasing lands in the province, and some of that it has to be assessed. It has to be determined if it could be part of the 12%, and some of it may continue to be for forestry uses or other purposes, but after it's properly assessed, some of it may well end up as being part of our 12%. And as I mentioned to a previous member, I believe, we just released some lands for consideration on our 12% goal that will put us over the top, over the 12%. I think there was 23 large parcels out there that were under consideration, asking for the public's input on what they feel of that should be included. It's more than we need for the 12%, but it will be important to get that public feedback. And just today we released the possible boundaries for the Chignecto land in Cumberland County, and that too will become part of our 12%.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, and pleased that those two areas are having positive developments, and I commend the minister and the department for that. One of the areas that the Colin Stewart Forest Forum has presented on occasion is that perhaps during while the sites, the 23 are being reviewed and looked at, would it make sense, Mr. Minister, that there be a moratorium on cutting in those areas so that when they become part of the 12%, they are intact and they do have a greater value to Nova Scotians?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And it's always a balancing act is right between the needs of the forest industry for fiber and the protection of land for environmental and wildlife and water and carbon storage and so on. The maintaining the land in a pristine environment as compared to the needs of the forest industry. And generally, we've had pretty good cooperation from the forest industry. We early on identified some possible lands that might be under consideration for the protected lands, and we've had discussions with the major forest companies in that regard. So it's sort of been set aside and untouched, up until this point, with the idea that they could be rolled over into a protected area. Perhaps in exchange for looking at other lands that would meet their needs along the way. But we've had good cooperation with the forest industry, and we'll work towards our goal in cooperation with all Nova Scotians to reach that 12% total.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the Minister as well for that response. One of the other areas I wanted to touch on was the Nova Scotia Crown Share land legacy, and I was wondering what monies are currently available to support this legacy trust. We know that it's been an effective tool to protect ecologically significant private lands in Nova Scotia, and has in fact achieved some significant areas that are now protected. So I could have some information on that in terms of whether or not there's any kind of dedicated revenue stream, and what is it in terms of current government support.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask the honourable member to give me more information on this. You call it the Crown Share Legacy Trust. Maybe just give me more information so I can get more information back to you.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
And it is very new. It was just established in 2008, and so again, I know it's an area that may not have I guess a large amount of information surrounding it, but it has started its work and has been identifying and working to protect some of the most ecologically sensitive areas. So I'm wondering if that is currently a line item inside the natural resources budget, and if there is monies available to move that work forward.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Crown Share Legacy Trust is not contained within the budget of the Department of Natural Resources. It's actually in the Department of the Environment. I understand it's around a $23 million total, and I would suggest maybe if you want to talk to the Ministry of Environment during his estimates, I'm sure he could give you more details on it.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you very much. And I guess the last area that I will touch upon is one that I've talked about before, and it is biomass, which is very much prominent on the minds of many Nova Scotians, and many stakeholders. Obviously, our paper mills, the small woodlot owners, the large industrial holdings, and Nova Scotians in a very general way, very concerned about the direction. I know our party supported the New Page project and felt very strongly that it was going to be the project that would be monitored very closely before the other projects would be approved. And if we take a look at the steering panel, the report talked about the need for the balancing act with all the demands on our forest resource. And the report went further to indicate, and I'll quote, "Exercise great caution in the use of biomass for power generation. There is ample evidence that our forests are already under considerable stress. Despite the need to reduce greenhouse gases, Nova Scotia does not have the wood capacity for biomass use to make much of a difference, even provincially. It is counterintuitive for the province to protect the environment by cutting down too many trees or reducing the quality of already thin and acidic soils. The province should instead encourage the exploration and expansion of other sustainable methods to generate power, and at the same time methods to conserve energy and reduce demand." Well, we have established the target of 350,000 dry tons. Now, Dr. Paul Arp at the University of New Brunswick was commissioned by the department to address inventory concerns. Has his report been finalized and delivered to your department at this point?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you know, we're constantly updating our, you know, our modeling, our information, and we respect certainly the great work that was done during Phase 2 of the Natural Resources Strategy. You know, we had an opportunity to sit down with the steering panel with Constance Gluby and Alan Shaw, and had some good information from Joe Marshall as well. And you know, they made it loud and clear that yes, we must take a cautious approach. And so that's where we're coming from. We're listening to what the steering panel had to say, and we certainly respect the panel of experts, expertise that came forward during Stage 2 of that report. We originally had Dr. Wheeler from Dalhousie University that had come forward with recommendations on you know, renewables, and biomass was part of his recommendation. You know, also wind and tidal and hydro and you know, other renewables. But you know, we know we have to live within our means, and you know, it's we have to live within a renewable forest, you know, within a cap. So that's why we were taking a cautious approach, and we are listening to good advice out there. Now, you mentioned Dr. Arp, and his report is not finished yet, I understand, but we're looking forward to receiving that. I believe he has till September of this year before that will be coming to our department. But we're always listening to what people have to say, and if there's a new modeling or new economic impact or new advice from anybody that we commission, or just any new information out there, we'll be constantly looking at our modeling. But at this point, you know, the only project that's been approved has been the new page one that you mentioned your caucus is supportive of, and so that will not come on stream until 2013. There's still some room within that very, very conservative cap to allow for other projects. We're encouraging small community-based projects, certainly under the COMFIT program, and those rates will be set by UARB coming out in May, and we'll have guideline for people how to move forward with developing a community-based project, and it will create jobs in the local communities and supply part of our renewable electricity as well. So hopefully that answered your question, and I'm sure you get some more.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In that light, in looking at Dr. Arp's report, still to come, the Woodbridge report, which the department is now using in its finalization of the natural resources strategy. Are those reports going to be available to the public to also have a review of?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and absolutely, any good information we have, we'll share it with Nova Scotians, and so they can be informed and up to date as we are in the department. The Woodbridge report has just come to us this month, and we're analyzing that and how best to fit it into the natural resources strategy. That report will be released within a week or 10 days, I suspect, and it will be fully available to the industry or to the general public or to members of the opposition, whoever wants to see it. And Dr. Arp's report, too, will be made public once it's come to the department and we have a chance to review it.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Mr. Minister. I'm pleased to hear that, again, Nova Scotia will have an opportunity to have a look at those and see where they fit into the context of the strategy. The other provincial strategy that, again, as I know, is a work in progress is the wetland strategy, and again, it was due some time ago, and I'm just wondering where that document is as the department prepares a release.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, as these strategies become available, they will be shared with all Nova Scotians. And we're working closely with our partners in the Department of the Environment, and really it falls under that department's jurisdiction. So really all I can say is it will be released when, or it will be available to the public in due course, but you may be able to get further answers from the Minister of the Environment during his estimates.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, and I'm wondering if the Minister at this stage can speak to, and if the central principle of the wetlands strategy that many groups were directing towards was a zero loss of wetlands in the province. Is that going to be the guiding principle for the wetland strategy?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm not trying to avoid the question here, but there's ministers in the property department has a lot more expertise on this than I, so I'm going to refer you to him during his estimates.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much. And one of the last areas that I wanted to touch upon It's been stated here in the House, and I think by the Minister of Tourism, Rural Economic Development and Tourism, or maybe now it's Culture, Communities and Tourism, but I know it's been stated that we are seeing a lot more of visits to our provincial parks, a lot more intra-provincial travel, as opposed to moving outside for camping and visiting experience, and I would think that that'll be the case this summer, as gas prices are likely to remain very high. And one of the areas that I've heard as a natural resources critic that I've heard from is some complaints on the provincial camps that require bookings in order to obtain a site, and the other aspect is that people talk about some of our parks needing a facelift. And I'm just wondering, I know they get lots of use, especially those that are close to roadside. They become a natural stopping off point. And I'm wondering if there is a master plan in relation to an upgrade or a continual improvement process with our provincial parks and also our day parks that is my understanding are utilized at a very, very high percentage. So if the Minister could provide some comments around our provincial park system and the kind of needs as we look much more at the wonderful places to visit and to experience in our province. And there does seem to be that kind of that return to camping and tenting inside our province.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and certainly our provincial parks are something that's near and dear to my heart. I know many of them are beautiful places to go to take a hike or to birdwatch or to perhaps have a picnic with your family. Some of them are day use parks, and some of them are overnight camping parks, and many of them are unique. You know, each one is different, of course, but I can think of parks that I've visited over, you know, the Green Hill Look-Off Park in Pictou County is a magnificent view for miles all around, and there's others. I have special memories of Salt Springs Provincial Park is often where school picnics and church school picnics have been held, and we have Caribou Provincial Park, where it overlooks the Northumberland Strait towards Prince Edward Island, where a lot of people go camping. And I know there's many equally beautiful parks around the province, and we continue to put money in every year for improvements, whether it's trail development or sometimes, unfortunately, from storm damage that occurs, and you know, it's an ongoing maintenance issue. And some of our parks, we have good partnerships with community groups that help manage or maintain those parks. I think I was talking earlier with the Honourable Leader of the Progressive Conservative Party about Cape Chignecto Provincial Park, where there's a management agreement there with CREDA. But many, I think we have about 60 parks where there is a provincial group or provincial agreement with some local community group that helps look after them. And as you know, very shortly our natural resources strategy will be coming out, and one of the 4 pillars in that strategy is around parks, and you know, that's, as I mentioned, a very important aspect of our natural resources department, and so I think you'll see some initiatives mentioned in there and new things coming forward. And certainly as we do move forward in the years to come, you know, we need to look at all our parks and what their role is and how we best can maintain or enhance them in any way. And so I think you'll see coming out of the strategy some direction in better managing our parks in the future.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. One of the developments last year, and I know it was part of a cost-saving measure, was to reduce in some of our overnight parks an attendant that would be available through the night hours. I know some provisions were made. I'm wondering if the minister could provide some information on how that did impact. I did hear from a few of the park attendants, that police had to be called on a few occasions. I'm just wondering if it proved problematic, or weighing it all out, it's something you can live with, or that you will continue to monitor. I know because it was a public issue last year around this time when that change came about. People obviously, some of the park attendants used the opportunity to give me a call on a few things that did happen, and especially in the early part of the season, when perhaps younger people congregate, the May 24th weekend and so on, which again is not too far away. And I'm wondering how the department did review it, and where they are at this time in having a clear sense of everything will remain in place for this year, or whether there will be further changes.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And, we're always trying to encourage people to come and use our provincial parks and our camping parks. We have a pretty good reservation system in place now, and people can book ahead and throughout the season if they so wish. But you're right, sometimes there can be problems, and we have department staff that can provide enforcement or just a general policing aspect, or just monitoring to see if maybe there's nothing going on, but they're through on to have a look to see what is happening. But from time to time, people being people, I guess, like having a good time, and things can get a little out of hand, but there's been no significant issues. I think occasionally somebody's been banned from the park if they've been misbehaving, and usually maybe for a year they'll be a suspension. They're not allowed back in that particular park, and we usually have a policy of no alcohol in the campgrounds until the July 1st weekend. But that try to discourage that first of the season party animal, I guess, that wants to come out. But generally, we've had no significant issues, and we'll continue along the same lines.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Well, with that, Madam Chair, Mr. Minister and staff, I have concluded my questions to the Minister, and I do wish him well in his new ministry, and look forward to other opportunities to raise issues that affect Nova Scotians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand there are no further questions, so I will offer the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources an opportunity for closing remarks and moving of the estimates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it's certainly been a pleasure to have the opportunity here today and earlier days this week to engage with honourable members in the opposition on the budget estimates, both in energy and here today and Tuesday in natural resources. And it's been a learning experience for myself as a new minister in these two departments. But I do thank the honourable members for their intelligent questions and comments. And there's some information that we've undertaken to get for various members on different topics that we will do. And I do want to thank my deputy Duff Montgomery and Weldon Myers that have been here with me, giving me some encouragement and some information from time to time. And also I want to say thank you to all our staff in the Department of Natural Resources, some who are with us here this afternoon, and been a great help to me, and I'm sure will continue to be in the future. So we do have a great staff in the Department of Natural Resources. So with that, Madam Chair, I want to move the resolution on the estimates, E15. Resolved that a sum not exceeding $92,845,000 be granted to the Lieutenant Governor to defray expenses in respect of the Department of Natural Resources pursuant to the estimate. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall the resolution stand?
Stand.
The resolution is stood. I recognize the Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we may take a short recess here while the next department moves in.
Thank you. We'll stand for just a few moments of recess where we can make some changes. Thank you. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, would you please call the estimates for the Department of Economic, Rural Development and Transportation, Tourism, excuse me, E14. Can you? E4. 14. My God.
Thank you. I will now call Resolution E4, Economic and Rural Development and Tourism. And I would now invite the Minister to offer some opening remarks. The Honourable Minister of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about this year's budget for economic and rural development and tourism and the worthwhile work being done by the people of this department. Now, normally, I think I'd be pleased to make note of introduction of staff, but as one can see, I have nobody to the left of me and nobody to the right of me. But I will say, Madam Chair, that staff will be here shortly, and also I will be joined by, I have a couple of staff members in the gallery with me today, and hopefully before I sit down that you'll see a huge audience up there from Economic and Rural Development and Tourism. I'm feeling pretty lonely right now, Madam Chair, but I know that's soon going to change. I will be, so when they do come, Madam Chair, I will introduce them once they arrive. Since last year's budget, there have been some changes to my department. The new Department of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism includes the former Economic and Rural Development, Tourism from the former Tourism, Culture and Heritage, Gateway Secretariat from Transportation and Infrastructural Renewal, Consolidated Trade Staff, and NSBI field staff. This new structure also includes increased alignment with all 5 agencies, which are NSBI, Innovacor, Film Nova Scotia, Waterfront Development Corporation, and Trade Center Limited. Nova Scotians expect their government to live within its means, get its own house in order, and to deliver programs and services in an efficient, cost-effective manner. Over the past number of years, government has grown and expanded. Key reports such as Savoie and Deloitte clearly point to the need for better coordination within government to achieve these outcomes. The overall realignment of government helps reduce overlap and duplication, and it better positions departments to deliver on key priorities such as health, education, and job creation. We are in the business of job creation and creating a better economy. So are all the people who now make up the new Economic and Rural Development and Tourism. The new department brings together experts in trade from across government, brings a sharper focus to tourism and gateway as economic drivers, and ensures all economic development agencies are aligned towards common objectives. Donald Savoie also told us that we should set out to become more like the business-friendly jurisdiction in Canada in terms of accessing programs and services. Savoie also said efforts of all involved in economic development need to be fully aligned. Part of this is having one face of economic development and consolidating regional efforts. NSBI field staff integrating with department field staff will assist us in just achieving that goal. And the expertise that they can offer is certainly second to none. This change provides greater coordination and collaboration in our overall attraction and retention of progressive companies who can provide and sustain high-value jobs in all sectors. This restructuring was necessary to move forward Jobs Here. Jobs Here is our plan to grow the economy. We have the right alignment, We are the right players. We are moving together in the right direction. Government's priorities are interrelated. To get better health care sooner and live within our means, we need to create good jobs and we need to grow the economy. This budget reflects our focus on jobs here, creating climates for learning the right skills for good jobs, innovation, and global competitiveness. Madam Speaker, as we take on these challenges, the 2011-2012 budget for economic and rural development and tourism is $125.6 million. This is an increase, Madam Chair, of $17,632,000 from the former Economic and Rural Development's 2010-11 budget. This increase is related to the addition of Tourism Division's budget, which is $23.6 million, Nova Scotia Gateway Secretariat, which has a $1.4 million budget, and new funding for jobs here, which is $6.7 million. I am proud that my department has taken a lead role in the implementation of the plan to grow our economy. In addition to addressing the department's 2011-12 budget, I will provide an overview of our part of moving jobs here forward. Secure jobs, a strong economy, and fiscal responsibility will help ensure there are sufficient funds to support important social programs and services for all Nova Scotians. This seems like an appropriate place to say thank you and to recognize the work of the staff at the Department of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism and its agencies. During the past year, many employees have been dedicated to the launch and implementation of jobs here. They are all working to pull in one common direction, the right direction for economic prosperity in Nova Scotia. I am very thankful for their insight. I am very thankful for their guidance and for their time. They are further proof of the great resource Nova Scotia has in its people. I would also like to recognize the people of Nova Scotia who are involved in economic and rural development in a number of ways, through paid employment or volunteer work, with organizations such as rural development authorities, community and business associations, small and large businesses, cooperatives, and, Madam Chair, so much more. Community-led economic development initiatives are crucial. They enable community groups and volunteers to develop locally relevant initiatives and solutions to make communities more economically and socially viable. Madam Chair, that goes hand in hand. It is an important thing to remember in any discussion about budgets and about numbers. However, having said that, people are the foundation of everything that we do. We are committed to growing our economy and creating good jobs for Nova Scotians. Madam Chair, I'm going to talk a little bit about jobs here. Now, during the past 20 years, Nova Scotia's economic growth has been lower than any other province in Canada. As the economy went global, competition intensified. Technology took off, but Nova Scotia didn't keep up. To address this massive challenge, we launched the greatest success of last year, Jobs Here. Jobs Here, the plan to grow our economy. In addition to the launch, Madam Chair, we started implementation in a big way. This budget provides the resources necessary to continue the implementation necessary to grow Nova Scotia's economy. Jobs Here, without a doubt, Madam Chair, it is an aggressive plan. It's made up of 3 interrelated priorities. Those 3 priorities are learning the right skills for good jobs. 2, growing the economy through innovation. And last but certainly not least, helping businesses be more competitive globally. It challenges governments. It challenges businesses. It challenges educational institutions, unions and associations, not-for-profit organizations, communities and industries. It challenges all of them, Madam Chair, to work together toward economic growth for the province of Nova Scotia. Government will commit more than $200 million to Jobs Here. The total amount that Economic and Rural Development and Tourism has committed this year for Jobs Here is about $59 million. Here are some of the Jobs Here initiatives that we've already launched. First, clean tech. Nova Scotian clean tech technology companies will have better access to capital through the new $24 million Clean Tech Fund. The province, through InnovaCore, will support the growth of emerging clean technology companies and move the province in a new direction. And that direction, Madam Chair, is forward. Clean technology includes renewable energy, energy efficiency, air and water supply solutions, and recycling. It represents a range of products and services intended to provide superior performance at lower costs, while minimizing negative ecological impact and using natural resources responsibly. The investment will help companies meet an urgent demand for sustainable solutions. It will also attract new companies and investment into the region, strengthening Nova Scotia's position in this an exciting global market. The fund will be managed by InnovaCore through its high-performance incubation business model. The model has a proven track record of driving companies' performance by progressively funding them as they meet operational milestones. Now, Madam Chair, I will talk just for a wee bit about the Productivity Investment Fund. Productivity Investment Program, more commonly known in our department as PIP. Nova Scotia's new $25 million Productivity Investment Program will help companies improve their employees' skills and purchase advanced equipment in order for them to become more competitive. This new program expands on the previous Manufacturing and Processing Credit Program and is part of government's commitment to spur growth in this sector and other key sectors of the provincial economy. It is developed based on the ideas and recommendations of employers from across the province. We heard from employers who said, we need more investment in capital. Employers told us that there was a gap in workplace education and training, that they needed assistance in making sure their employees have access to the training they need to do the best they can at their jobs. We agreed with them, and Madam Chair, we delivered. The new program focuses on productivity in two ways. One, skill development for existing employees through the workplace innovation and productivity skills incentive component. And secondly, the purchase of advanced technology and advanced equipment through the capital investment incentive component. Madam Chair, since the launch of the program on December the 20th, the province has approved a total of $1.82 million in 25 individual companies and organizations around the province through the program's two incentives. We are happy to recently announce the recipients, which included Scottsburn Cooperative Services, Crown Fiber Tube, Seaforth Energy, King's Produce Processing, Biomedica Diagnostics, AF Terrio and Son, Classic Granite Countertops, A&M Fabrication, RX Security, Uplift Technologies. And Madam Chair, there are so many more. I am proud to say that this new program is one of the most significant investments in workplace training in Nova Scotia's history. We are happy to support members of the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters Nova Scotia Division with their workplace training. Through the Workplace Innovation and Productivity Skills Incentive, the province is contributing more than $46,000. This funding will enable Canadian manufacturers and exporters to offer lean certification, which is training that improves productivity and ensures operational efficiency to its members around the province. This program also doubles the amount of the incentive available for companies to purchase technology and advanced equipment from 10% to 20%. In addition to the manufacturing processing sector, businesses involved in aerospace and defense, life sciences, information and communication technology, and those involved in the development of non-traditional sources of energy are eligible to apply. Investment in people and equipment makes us a more competitive province. Madam Chair, it's as simple as that. Being more competitive is essentially growing the economy. That's why we are providing Nova Scotia companies with even more opportunity to increase productivity and learn the right skills for good jobs. PIP also supports the Strategic Cooperative Education Incentive. This incentive aims to grow the number of work placement opportunities available to students enrolled in cooperative education programs in our universities and community colleges. It will also assist high-value businesses and organizations across the region to recruit and retain students for work placements. The incentive provides organizations with 50% of the required minimum hourly wage of $15 an hour. Madam Chair, for a minute, I will move to international commerce strategy. I don't know what's going to happen. If my voice is starting to go now, I don't know what it's going to be like an hour from now. A new initiative, International Commerce Strategy, it's a new initiative that is right around the corner, that this budget will help implement is the International Commerce Strategy. This is a known fact, Madam Chair. Nova Scotia is a small province. We can't grow our economy just by selling to one another. We have to find new customers and new partners far beyond our borders. A growing economy depends upon competitive companies. Many Nova Scotian companies compete and thrive in the global marketplace. We are extremely well suited for international trade. Where we are situated on the global map reinforces that. We need to take advantage of our assets. We need to encourage more Nova Scotia businesses to compete and to succeed globally. We need to increase foreign direct investment in international trade and, of course, improve our productivity. We, Madam Chair, are committed to creating opportunities in high-value sectors to connect Nova Scotia businesses with potential partners abroad and attract new companies. The International Commerce Strategy will coordinate the complex range of commercial activities. This includes exchanges in investments, technology, and people, as well as international trade in goods and services. The strategy will help Nova Scotian companies build international capacity, which will enable them to increase international economic activity here in Nova Scotia. It will enable them to strengthen Nova Scotia's access to international markets and networks. And it will enable them to build an integrated approach to international commerce. 3 initiatives that are currently under the strategy are International Commerce Intelligence, International Growth Fund, Global Business Partnership Fund are all part of the plan. Welcome to the chair. Now, Mr. Chair, I will just spend a minute talking about the strategic investment framework. Because soon, we as a department and a government will also be launching our strategic investment framework. As a government, we need to be clear and we need to be focused. We need to be focused when we make investments in sustainable economic development. A comprehensive investment approach will provide an evidence-based assessment of potential opportunities at the job and company level. Mr. Chair, it's not about picking winners and picking losers. It's about creating good, secure jobs that will make Nova Scotia an attractive place to live, to work, and to raise families. Moving on, Mr. Chair, strategic sector development. Jobs here will also include strategic sector development. Now, Mr. Chair, the province, we will increase its capacity to gather intelligence on sectors that hold potential to attract, create, and grow high-value jobs. Through this sector development, government will better understand where the opportunities lie and will be able to leverage those opportunities. This will advance businesses in these sectors, and it will encourage them to learn more. It will encourage them to innovate more and be more competitively globally. Mr. Chair, productivity and innovation strategy. We also will be launching a new productivity and innovation strategy. This strategy will ensure that the province's activities and investments, as well as those of key partners in the provincial economy, are coordinated and focused on common goals. The strategy will encourage the adoption of new technology, clean energy opportunities, digital leadership, mentoring and incubation, entrepreneurship, and commercialization. It will align current provincial innovation funding with the priorities in jobs here. I almost think sometimes, Madam Chair, that this is a test. Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, so we're back to Madam Chair. Nova Scotia. Now, we all know now, broadband was phase one. Broadband has evolved to Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is a digital strategy that will harness the power of the internet as a tool for innovation. With the Broadband for Rural Nova Scotia project, the province and the private sector have made significant investments well into the future. We will continue to work with service providers to make sure fast, reliable, and affordable service is available to those who want it. We will also need to optimize our ability to use this tool and exploit it to its full potential right across the province. The Nova Scotia strategy will increase internet adoption for small to medium-sized businesses and social enterprises. It will support the development of applications and high-value digital solutions. It will increase awareness in the internet's productivity and environmental benefits. And it will support collaboration throughout the province. This year's budget has allocated $900,000. With this flexible funding, Nova Scotia will be responsive to input from stakeholders in addressing their needs. In fact, we are getting started right away with events that will help inform our digital strategy. On April the 26th at Pier 21, speakers will bring in an awareness of what is shaping innovation. What is shaping innovation digitally and virtually today, and what we can look forward to in the near future. Live, in person, and online, 3 amazing digital pioneers are coming to Nova Scotia to give us a peek into their worlds and our future. Our future to educate, empower, and to inspire. As world events prove just how powerful ideas on the internet can be, it's time for Nova Scotians to talk about what we can do together. And I know, Madam Chair, that throughout this presentation that I'm giving, I've used the word together a number of times, and you'll see that it's one of the common threads that are running through this presentation and runs through our department. This will be the first in a series of events to create a virtual space in Nova Scotia where innovation thrives and productivity results. Now I want to spend just a few seconds talking about innovation and competitiveness fun. This is something that we're very excited about. We're excited about the $2 million allocation in this year's budget for the Innovation and Competitiveness Fund. This fund supports the expansion of existing programs such as the the Productivity and Innovation Voucher Program, I3 Competition, and Early Stage Commercialization Fund. The fund will also allow for the development of new programs to support the recommendations resulting from the Productivity and Innovation Strategy from Nova Scotia and strategic investment and sector strategies. The fund's flexibility allows government to adapt to the rapidly changing marketplace and will support technology adoption, commercialization, and highly skilled personnel for Nova Scotia's businesses. Something, Madam Chair, that it's also gathered much attention is the Regional Venture Capital Fund. This government has committed $15 million toward a new privately operated regional venture capital fund. This fund will be established over the next 18 months. The fund will target high-growth opportunities for knowledge-based companies. It will be designed to attract new capital into the region and improve access to capital for companies that want to innovate. We are working to engage our federal and Atlantic counterparts in extending the reach of the fund throughout all of Atlantic Canada. Ultimately, the fund will help Nova Scotia companies tap into international networks and build growth-focused partnerships for research and new business activities. I would take a second, Madam Chair, to highlight the business web portal, because we are also working very diligently on a new business web portal. That portal will provide a single web-based entry point to a broad range of economic development programs and services. The portal will build links across programs and help clients navigate resources based on such things as business funding opportunities, industry sector data, regional portfolios, and infrastructure and industrial parks information. The portal will increase the efficiency of service delivery and improve integration among government partners. Madam Chair, I'll take just a few seconds because this one has meant a lot to many staff, many members of staff in our new Department of Economic and Rural Development and Tourism, because it was a proud day, Madam Chair, a proud day, the day that I tabled the new Public Procurement Act. This is a great example of doing the right thing. It's as simple as that, Madam Chair, doing the right thing, placing our resources and efforts where they are going to make a real difference. The Procurement Governance Initiative will ensure all public sector identities, such as hospitals, schools, municipalities, and government departments, work together to get taxpayers the best value for the goods and services that they purchase. We estimate that public sector entities procured more than $2 billion last year alone. It's our job to ensure this money is being spent wisely and all public sector entities